Another thing I would like to talk about is in a way that there are also the trade-offs when you're implementing these new systems where maybe the public is less so informed, or maybe it does harm the public, and more of a socio-economic impact on the communities. What type of impact do you think this would affect these specific communities? And how do we acknowledge and mitigate maybe these adverse effects?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's like the second point I was saying earlier of, are we gonna change everything but keep those like injustices in place, or are we gonna change everything and see this as an opportunity to also change like the systemic inequalities that are there and like, make things better for everyone, not just for those that already had money, like the keep the corporates big or the incumbents big, as I was mentioning earlier. That's the question that we have, right? So I think an example might give the best, I guess, like thinking around this. Um, let's look at like the existing energy economy and how it was like built. Like if we think about natural gas pipelines and the way they were built, they were sometimes built without like owner's consent or like built and there's this thing called eminent domain, and these pipelines could just cross someone's land and then the company could just claim that land. So these pipelines are already in people's like way in certain way, and like they if you see all the protests of like new natural gas pipelines as well, like there's not a lot of like community like you know community participation, community ownership in the decision making. Like especially if we're thinking about like pipelines crossing tribal lands and things like that. So there's an interesting example of a case in which local communities did collaborate with the pipeline developer, except for this pipeline was for carbon dioxide, which is a new, I guess, like decarbonization economy pipeline, right? Because we would be taking carbon dioxide from one like an emission source and trying to put it underground. And that's like carbon CCUS, carbon capture, utilization, sequestration. So I think this pipeline like agreement is actually really interesting because instead of just like, pushing through and like not working with the community, the pipeline developer is actually sharing a lot more financial benefits with the community than it could have otherwise. And in return, the community does give its I guess permission to like have that pipeline built. So there's like benefits that include like payments to train all of the local fire stations to like be educated on pipeline safety, on CO2 pipeline safety specifically, because they're different than natural gas. And yeah, just like have that training done every year that the pipeline's in operation so that like people will be safe from its operation. And there'll also be like repeated payments to any owner who has the pipeline on their land. So they actually get a cut of the like pipelines like, profits. And that definitely did not happen all the time in the past and in the previous contracts they used to do. At the end of life of the pipeline, like they also have benefits for the community. Before the pipeline, like and during the construction phase, they'll also be looking for local jobs from the community. So it's like every phase of the pipeline's lifetime, like there is some local community benefit, and it's like financial, significant, and continued.